This presentation examines a variety of secondary storage devices. So secondary storage is necessary for saving files such as photos, music and any other documents. In addition, storage is used for holding software, including the operating system itself. Even when the computer is turned off, the files are stored and the data remain unchanged and can be accessed again once power supply has been turned on. So we're going to first look at the magnetic hard disk storage device. This is a secondary storage device, and the way this works is that we have tracks on the disk platters that contain tiny little magnets, each holding one bit of data. So the polarity of each magnet, whether it's negative or positive of the magnets, determines whether the bits are 0 or 1. So we have a write head that modifies the polarity of the magnets accordingly as needed, and also the same head is also used to read the polarity of the magnets as well, so you can determine whether it's a 0 or a 1. And the tracks themselves are actually laid out in a series of concentric rings. Now the advantage of this type of storage is actually it's very cheap nowadays, and all the disadvantages are that it's kind of less reliable because it contains quite a few moving parts. The disk has to spin, the head has to move as well, so there's quite a few moving parts within the disk. Any kind of electromagnetic surge can corrupt the data held, and also it is slow compared with some other methods. So optical forms of secondary storage, we're kind of all familiar with CDs and DVDs, and that's what we mean by optical storage devices. In this situation we have tracks on the disk that contains pits and lands. So the track is a spiral. A laser is transmitted and the laser light is reflected when it hits the land and is scattered when it hits the pit. So depending on whether the light is scattered, light is encoded as a binary value of 0 and reflected light is encoded as a 1. So the sensor is able to detect whether the light has been it's been able to detect reflected light but not the scattered light, so it encodes that as 0s and 1s. Advantage of optical media is that they can transfer easily between computers. Disadvantages is that it can scratch really easily. There's not much storage compared with other methods, and there isn't an unlimited write to the disk. And finally, we want to look at solid state drive. So solid state drives use millions of switches called floating gate transistors on microchips to store the data. Solid state devices contain no moving parts and are therefore more robust than optical and magnetic storage. Electrons are stored in the gate, and this is encoded as a 0 when there is an electron and encoded as a 1 when there is no electron present. The electrons remain trapped even when there's no flow of electricity. So the advantage of this kind of storage is that it's much faster than other means, and it's more reliable than other means of storage if you're reading, and they're quiet. And main disadvantage is that it's actually quite expensive compared to other forms of storage.